What's up, Facebook world? This is Victor from the 39.6 first Facebook Live broadcast. Thanks for coming out, and hopefully this goes well. We're just going to test this out and see how it's going. If you see this broadcast, please comment so I know you are there. I hope that it's actually live. I've only test run this a couple times. Okay, so Vina Jetty, hi, thanks for coming. And we are using the Be Live video interface, which is pretty easy to use. It's pretty sweet. Allows me to put on comments. And there's my wife, Kate, who is on call reading from the next room. Hello, Kate. Hey, David Draginas from the Doctors Unbound podcast. Welcome. Maggie, moderator of the Married to Medicine Personal Finance Facebook group. Thanks for coming. Wow, awesome to see people here. We have 7 people on already. And all right. Welcome. And let's see if my soundboard works. All right, so we are gonna get started. This is Pinky, courtesy of Aunt Carmen. Thank you for bringing this toy as a gift to our baby Shinola. I'm using it because I don't have an actual soundboard. Vina and Tarang Patel, host of the Dr. Money Matters podcast and Facebook group. So awesome to have you guys all here. Yeah, total nerd. Thanks, Vina. Appreciate the comments. All right. And Sapan Talati. So Vina and Sapan from Enzo Ventures. All right, so what we're gonna do today, I'm gonna try to actually do these on a regular basis. I'm gonna see if I can maybe even do this on a daily basis. We'll try it out, but I'm gonna answer some people's questions. First, I wanted to mention I do have a blog going, 39.6, that's 39point 6.com. I was going to have a little banner showing this at the bottom of the screen, but that didn't work out at the moment. But I am on vacation here on an island, courtesy of Be Live TV. I have a coconut there. It's pretty sweet. I'm going to take off those glasses. Have to keep up with the comments. We'll see if I can do it daily. We'll see. Maybe a short one every day. You can have goals, right? Shoot for the moon, land on shoot for the stars, land on the moon. That's what the saying is, right? There you go. Vina, thank you very much for posting that. 39.6. I'm going to try to keep up with these. There we go. There we go. That's the website. And I have a couple blog posts. I'm going to do my first shout out here to Physician on Fire. Physician on Fire, awesome blogger, awesome guy. He posts a link every week, every Sunday with the Sunday Best. And he linked to my article called Real Estate, the Fast Track to Financial Independence. So thank you very much, Physician on Fire, for putting that out. I woke up, checked my email, and I had comments from people I didn't know, which is pretty amazing, the power of the internet and the power of sharing other people's work. So very much appreciated. So Physician on Fire has a Facebook group, and I pulled a question from one of the posts in there, and I'm gonna have this be from Anonymous. So this question, for risk-averse docs like me, after paying off everything, including the mortgage, what is your plan for investments? We are currently maxing out our 401k from work. We're doing a backdoor Roth IRA for myself and my spouse. We're holding off on kids' 529 plans for now until our house is paid off. But that's what they're focusing on right now. And I'm wondering what people do after completing paying off all of their debts. I'm not super excited about being a landlord. I'm busy lording over 3 kids under the age of 4 with a full-time job. But the only thing left seems to be real estate. Thanks. All right, so it's a good question. So this person wants to get out of all debts, and that's totally people's prerogative. As long as you're putting your money toward good, and that is either paying down your debt or investing, you're increasing your net worth. And that's money that's not getting spent. And so paying off debt is fine. I like to invest more than like to pay off debt, at least at this point in my life. And that's because I want to build up my assets more than I want to worry about my liabilities. When I'm financially independent and can live off my assets, then I will likely be more aggressive at paying off the liabilities to take those off the page. But after maxing out any tax advantaged account, and if you have pre-tax investment accounts available to you at work and you are high income at a high tax bracket, in general, I think everybody should take that free gift from the IRS, and that is the tax deduction. I want to minimize the amount of tax I pay today and worry about it later. There are a lot of ways that you can minimize your tax liability when you're retired, especially if you have real estate. But any dollar they give you to save today, just take it, because you're likely never going to be as high of a tax bracket the rest of your life, assuming you're already like an attending physician. Now, hey, we have Passive Income MD. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming here. And we're just talking about real estate right now. So welcome. So after maxing out all tax advantage accounts and getting all of your tax deductions, then you have to invest on the taxable side. And this is kind of baffling because most people don't know about like what a regular taxable brokerage account is. But if we didn't have these special accounts, these 401k, 403b, 457 IRAs, then basically all we would have would be taxable brokerage accounts. So a taxable brokerage account, for example, would allow you to buy stocks or bonds. Stocks will pay you dividends every quarter usually, and then bonds will pay you interest. This could be every month, every quarter, different schedules. Okay, so the dividends would be taxed. So you would get a form from them in January and you report it on your taxes and you pay taxes on the dividends. This is usually between 15 to 23.8%, 23.8% for people with high income. What's up, Ken? Welcome. Now, if you're paying interest on bonds, that will get taxed as ordinary income. So whatever your tax bracket is, you're paying taxes at that level. So if you're at the top tax bracket, you're paying 37% on your interest plus another 3.8%, which is the net investment income tax. So the NIIT, so that makes it 40.8%. That's just federal. So basically a taxable account will subject you to taxes on your earnings while the money is there. All of those other accounts, the 401k, 403b, IRA, 457, while the money is inside there, any interest or any dividends will not be subject to taxation. That's what we call growing tax-free. Okay, so, but by default, any investment is a taxable account unless it's, or a taxable investment unless it's in one of those special coded buckets. So if you're investing in real estate and you own a property and you're renting it out, that is on the taxable side of your portfolio. You have to file a tax return on Schedule E, for example, that shows your rental income and your rental losses, and that rolls over to your 1040 and you pay tax on it. Ideally, it should be zero if you're running rental properties, I would say very tax efficiently. Dr. Nisha Mehta from Physician Side Gigs, welcome. So awesome to see you here. I'm so glad to see so many people coming out here on a Sunday night. Thank you. So on the taxable side, you have real estate and you have stocks and bonds or whatever other investments that might be inside of a brokerage. Regarding real estate, you don't have to own your own single family property and rent it out. That's the kind of the gateway to real estate investing for a lot of people. But for a high income person, it's really the most inefficient utilization of their time from an investing standpoint. And so, for example, you own one rental property, you might spend 2 hours on that property, even with a property manager per month. That one property might make you $300 a month in cash flow. So you're making like $150 an hour. As a physician, that's not an unreasonable amount of money, but you need this to be very passive so that your dollars per hour put into it are much higher than the dollars per hour you get from your job. Okay, that's why I've converted from doing all of my investing on the taxable side to real estate syndications to basically invest passively, where I invest with a group of people. I write them a check or wire the funds. They do all of that side, all of the management of the asset acquisition of the asset, management of the asset, disposition of the asset, and then I just get my money every month or every quarter. And then that keeps my time involvement as close to zero as you possibly can, so that my rate of return per time is near infinite. Okay, but that's taxable. You don't have to be, that's on the taxable side. You likely won't be paying any taxes on the cash flow the same way you likely wouldn't on a single family house. When you sell the property, you'll have to pay capital gains. But if you owned a single family property, sold it, and bought another one within a period of time, you can do what's called a 1031 exchange. And basically, you don't have to take that capital gains hit today. It just gets rolled over into the new property. And you can basically defer paying taxes on a rental property for perpetuity. That's one of the, if not the, it's probably the biggest benefit of owning a property by yourself, is being able to do continual 1031 exchanges and defer taxation forever. All right. Taxable brokerage, passive real estate investing are probably the two easiest ways to invest your money on the taxable side. And just because it's on the taxable side, and we have Carrie Reynolds. Thank you very much for showing up here from the Hippocratic Hustle. Welcome. And also my fellow Wayner. But basically, again, taxable brokerage and passive real estate investing is the easiest way to go for a high income professional who's already maxed out all of their tax deductions and looking to invest more. All right, so that was question number 1 from the Physician on Fire podcast and our Physician on Fire Facebook group. Again, check out his blog. His blog is awesome. If you want to know more about real estate syndications, I'm going to plug my buddy Jonas here, Passive Income MD. He's got an awesome blog and also a Facebook group. Great guy. I would definitely check that out if you're interested in real estate syndications. I have a question. Do I have any recommendations regarding 1031 exchanges? I have never done one. I don't personally have any recommendations myself. Vina Jetty, you may. But I'm hoping not to do a 1031 exchange. I only own 3 single family properties. One of them I may end up eventually just selling, and other 2 I'll probably keep for a long time. I have very little equity in them. If I sold them, I would not be probably coming out on the positive side of that kind of transaction. All right, so we're going to take a couple questions from the White Coat Investor Facebook group. This is a brand new Facebook group, just opened up, I think 2 weekends ago, maybe, and got filled up with thousands of people very quickly. One of these questions here is, I have several different types of IRAs. I have a Roth IRA, traditional IRA. Are all of these considered self-directed, or is a self-directed IRA a specific type that needs to be designated? Asking for the purpose of real estate investing inside of my IRA. All right. Vina Jetty is going to post a link. She hasn't done a 1031 exchange either. Okay, so it's interesting, the term self-directed. I see this actually used all the time on different types of investment accounts. That term is used very loosely. A lot of times I'll see an account that says this is a self-directed 401k. And basically what they're telling you is you can choose your own investments based on the options that they provide to you. And I guess that would be in counter to a retirement plan where they just invest it for you and you don't really have a choice about that. I can imagine some 403b plans that have annuities where they very well may just put you into an annuity and a default plan that you don't really have any choice over. A pension plan is probably the best example of what is not self-directed. A pension plan is invested by the people who are in charge of the pension plan. And so there are so many rules about pensions, but you basically have no choice about how it's invested unless you can basically convince them to how to design the pension, but you do not get to choose your investments. So under the self-directed category, we have choose your own, like mutual funds or index funds or whatever it is. And then we have the most extreme form of self-direction where you actually get to choose any investment at all without any limitations. And that is what especially in the real estate world, we really usually refer to as a self-directed account. So you could have an IRA that is self-directed. You can have a 401k that's self-directed. Usually, if you have a 401k that's self-directed, it's because you're self-employed and you can create your own 401k plan. But some companies may have a 401k that allows you to invest in other types of investments that are not stocks and bonds. Kenji Asakura from Semi-Retired MD, I believe. Sorry, I don't want to misquote the name of your blog. Awesome guy. Also a physician, part-time, does real estate so that they can have full-time real estate professional status. Kenji, awesome to have you here. Thank you very much for coming. This is like a total brain trust here. This is awesome to have everybody. When you have these self-directed IRAs or 401ks, the government actually allows you to invest in a very wide array of things. So you don't just have to invest in stocks and bonds. A lot of accounts only offer stocks and bonds because it's very easy for those to be implemented when you use a third-party company like Fidelity or Vanguard to run the retirement plan. But there are there's these other groups that basically specialize in allowing people to invest self-directed. So, for example, my IRA is entirely with Quest IRA. Quest IRA is housed out of Houston, but they have a Dallas office here. They're primarily in Texas. They're a good company. I like the people that work there. And what we do with our Roth IRA is we rolled all of our IRA money into there. Once the money was in there, we found an investment to invest the money. And what we did is we lent it to a couple of people that we know in our investment group, and they flip houses. And they needed like $150,000 in order to do this flip. So David Draginas also uses Quest. We put our money in there. The money, once it was in there and we found the deal we wanted to invest in, we filled out the paperwork. And we got the paperwork that showed that we have a lien position on the property, so that the IRA account has basically rights to the property if they don't pay off the loan. Okay, so that's what secures your debt. So we found this property has equity. So if for some reason they're unable to pay us, we can acquire the property from the people who are doing the flip. I charge 2% and 12% annualized interest. And that's what we do with our IRA. You can also invest in syndications on real estate. You could also own a rental property in there. I personally don't necessarily advocate that strategy as much unless you have a well-funded IRA, because if there are expenses that have to come out to pay for maintenance or something on that property, you can't use your own money on that investment. It has to come from the IRA. So there has to be enough cash buffer to cover all of those expenses. Kenji, thank you for bringing out this Investment Property Exchange Services Incorporated. And he also, in his comment, put in the contact information. Thank you. That's for people looking to do a 1031 exchange. Yeah, we use Quest. There's a number of companies out there. How do they make money? Well, they don't have investments in there that are generating cash for them the way that Fidelity or Vanguard does. So they charge you a fee every time you send money out. They charge you a fee based on the balance of your account. Some companies, basically, they give you the paperwork and you put your money into a bank account. What's up, Nasser? You put into a bank account, and then basically you get a checkbook and you can write a check and lend directly. And you don't have to actually deal with the third-party intermediary every time, but they will charge you a fee to keep that account open, for example. But then you have control over your assets, and you can invest them in things that give you either the rate of the return you're looking for or the type of asset allocation you're looking for, whatever types of assets they may be. So self-directed accounts, definitely something to look into, especially if you're looking to invest in real estate, or if you want to own some shares of private equities, be a limited partner in a company, something like that. All right, so another question. Let's hold on a second. All right, let's take a break.
Make some
All right. Thank you, Pinky. Okay. So we're going to go to our third question. Simple one here, also from the White Coat Investor Facebook group. All of my investment accounts are through Fidelity. Is it worth it to make the switch to Vanguard? So it's really interesting in the personal finance blog space and podcast space. There's a lot of love for Vanguard, and there's a lot of reasons why people do love Vanguard. Vanguard is basically a nonprofit. So the way it works, if you own Vanguard funds, the profits basically go back to you, which is how they keep their expenses very, very, very low. If you actually go to the Vanguard like headquarters in Pennsylvania, it's really nothing spectacular. And that's because they put the profits back into the investments so that the investors can keep their lion's share of the money, and that the expenses really just go to offset the actual costs. That's why people call the founder, Jack Bogle, Saint Bogle, because he really revolutionized the investment industry by making funds that let the investors keep most of their money. Now, so Vanguard is awesome, and they're a great place if you're looking for a discount brokerage with very low fees. They don't have any brick and mortar locations, and that is, I would say, probably the biggest downside to Vanguard, if there were one. Fidelity has brick and mortar locations, and so that's probably the biggest plus to Fidelity. In addition to, I personally think their online interface is really awesome. They obviously have the capital to invest into making their website very user-friendly, great website, great app, and but on the flip side, with that money comes from somewhere, right? So they're generating more profits than a company like Vanguard is. And how they do that, one of the easy ways to do that is to have your own investment funds, your own mutual funds, your own index funds. So if you go to Fidelity's website, you'll see they have Fidelity funds that have stars, and you can rank them, and you'll see that the Fidelity like recommended funds are like Fidelity funds that are actively managed by Fidelity and have higher expense ratios, and that's how that it can basically lure more profits to them. But Fidelity has great index funds also. They have very low cost index funds at about the same cost as Vanguard's, often if not even a little bit lower, because they're trying to attract more customers. So when I tell people ask me, should I switch everything to Vanguard? Well, no, you absolutely don't have to. It really just depends what you're buying, what you need, what you want. So if you go to Aldi's, Vanguard is like Aldi's, right? You walk into Aldi's, you're likely not going to come out spending a lot more than you expect. But you could go to a place like Kroger, a nice Kroger perhaps, and you could go in there, follow your list, and get all the cheap items you planned on getting, generic brands of everything, and still come out where you want to be. But they also have all these other things there that are tempting you to spend more money, where they drive up their margins. And that's basically Fidelity. So I have Fidelity for my 401k. I love Fidelity. Honestly, if I were to only choose one between Fidelity and Vanguard, I would probably choose Fidelity. And that's A, because my work employer is with Fidelity already, but B, they have a better self-employed 401k. Is Fidelity like Target? Fidelity is more like Target, Vina. Thank you. Just like Target. You go in there, you know the prices are cheap, but you still end up spending way more money than you plan when you leave Target. Yes. Okay. Better analogy. So one of the biggest problems with the accounts that Vanguard has is that they're individual 401k. So if you're self-employed and you have some money you want to put into a 401k, they don't allow rollovers. So if you want to move money from one place into there, you can't roll money into that 401k. It's very limited. So Fidelity definitely has more options. They're less restricted. And they also have very cheap expenses for ETFs. So if you want to invest in Vanguard ETFs at Fidelity, it only costs like, I think maybe $5, $6, something like that, each time you need to make a transaction. All right, so it's a good question. So Nasser asks, what do I think about robo investors? For example, the Intelligent Portfolios by Schwab. So Schwab Intelligent Portfolio is interesting. They actually have a cash allocation in there, which is a small cash drag. It's not a lot, but having that cash in there likely helps Schwab make a little bit more money. But any robo-advisor, Betterment, Wealthfront, Schwab, honestly, all of them are fine as long as you're okay with how they're invested. And for a lot of people, and I would actually say the majority of investors, they would be better off having a robo-advisor for all of their accounts, assuming they had access to one for all of their accounts, rather than managing it on their own. And that's simply because behavioral finance will show you that most people are not going to get the returns of their underlying investments, because people are going to buy when things are high, they're going to sell when things are low, and the returns that people actually get substantially are lower than the actual market rate returns of the investments that they had invested in. And so when you use a robo-advisor, it kind of takes your hands away from the steering wheel. And for that reason alone, it's actually probably better for most people. And if you just focus on investing as much of your money as you can, then as long as you have an asset allocation you're comfortable with, then I think it's a totally fine way to go. They charge you a very small percentage for managing that. So for example, like a 0.25% expense ratio above and beyond the underlying funds, which is still very, very, very low overall. So I think it's fine as long as you're okay with that asset allocation, that how much of it is in stocks, how much of it is in bonds. And you really have to look at your entire investment portfolio. You need to look at your 401k, your IRAs, your taxable accounts, all as a whole, and look at your stock bond allocation across all of those. And that's assuming you're not using real estate. And so once you kind of break it down, a lot of people with high income, you end up with a lot of different accounts. You might have 2 401ks, one for each spouse. You have an IRA for each of you, and then you have a joint account. So usually people have at least like 5 accounts. But then you might also have other accounts like an old 401k or an old 403b that's still sitting there. And so you end up with all these different accounts, and you can't use a robo-advisor for all of them. And so you really need to know what your allocation is across everything. I'm an advocate for the 3-fund portfolio, stocks, total stock index, total international index, and the total bond index over your entire portfolio. So for example, about 70% of our investments in our retirement plans are basically the total US stock market. And then 30% of it is total international stock market. And we don't currently have any bonds. We have a bunch of real estate that generates income. But if you just lay out all of your accounts and come out with an allocation for each one, and what I do is I basically put, for every account, there's only one investment. So like one account will be all US stocks. The next account will be all US stocks. The next one will be all US stocks. The fourth one will be all international. And then the fifth one will be a mixture of both to get to the percentage that I'm looking for. And hey, Shakti, another real estate guy here, welcome. So Dr. Patel mentions, yeah, it is a very small cash allocation in the Schwab intelligent portfolios. Not that big of a deal. Agree, not that big of a deal. He says, Berkshire Hathaway has a much larger cash position. Well, that is definitely true. Berkshire Hathaway certainly does, but Berkshire Hathaway is its own investment company or its own company that invests in companies. It is not an investment portfolio of index funds. So basically, within each index fund, you're going to have their own companies, and each of those companies has a cash allocation. So how much cash do you actually have? You'd have to aggregate the cash positions of every single underlying entity within your index if you really wanted to know. So it's kind of a comparison of apples to oranges. All right, so all right, so we are do one break here. All right. Thank you, Pinky. All right. So I think I answered all the questions in the queue here. The last one I was going to get to before closing out for Sunday night so I put one post on today on my blog on 39point6.com. And this one is about the University of Texas retirement options for people who are faculty there. But really what it goes down to is they have an option between a pension and a standard 403B, where you have to put into one of the two. You don't have a choice of to how much goes in. It's basically 15% goes into the 403B if you choose that, and then it's about 14%, or it's actually more like 13%, no, 14% if you put it into the pension plan through the University of Texas. Now, so I just kind of wanted to briefly talk about pensions. It's not like the most exciting topic. There was a good podcast on Afford Anything from a couple weeks ago. Paula Pant and Joe Saul-Sehy from Stacking Benjamins did a podcast called "What the Everything you basically want to know about annuities" in one podcast. Joe Saul-Sehy does an amazing presentation about them. But basically, a pension is an annuity. So a pension gives you a regular payment every month or every quarter or every year. Usually it's every month or every quarter. So Social Security, you put money into it your whole life. When you're 65 or 67 or 70, you take money out and you get, like, for example, $2,000 every month. That's your pension. Actually, Social Security goes up with inflation every year. So it might be 2,000 the first year, then it might be 2,040 a month the next year, then 2,080 a month. So Social Security is a pension. When you die, that pension is gone. Now, you could have a survivor benefit where Social Security will give half of that to your spouse. So it would be like $1,000 a month after you die, if your spouse is still alive. But then after your spouse dies, you have nothing. So that is not a heritable asset. Okay, so if you choose to put your money into TRS, the pension, that money, if once you're vested, which takes 5 years to get vested, when you retire, if you take that annuity, that regular payment, you will basically not have anything heritable from that. Now, one of the two biggest downsides of taking the pension option, the amount that the employer puts in on the cash balance is 7.2%, 6.8% that the employer puts in, versus the 403B option where they put 8.5% in. So you get like a 1.7% differential between the match component. So you get a 1.7% raise just by taking the 403B option. So that to me is already basically a no-brainer. That's like $5,000. Peace out, Vina. Number two is that the vesting period for the pension is 5 years. So you have to work there for 5 years. Otherwise, basically everything the employer puts in is gone and you end up just getting what you put into it, plus like 2% interest, very small. The vesting on the 403B is 1 year and 1 day. You put your money in there for 1 year and a day, you take it out, you have all of it. Like if you leave your job, you have all of that. Basically like 30%, I believe, of physicians do not stay at their first job. So that's a very high risk to lose all of that employer side of the coin. So, and those are the two biggest reasons. Now, the third is that when you have your money in a regular 403B that you have it invested in, when you become retirement age, if you're 65 and you quit working, or if you're 55 or 60, whatever age it is, you can annuitize that if you want to, and you can choose how much you annuitize. So you could take that whole thing and just buy an annuity. So in University of Texas, they have TIAA-CREF. TIAA-CREF has a whole assortment of great annuities. You could just put your money into an annuity inside there, and you're still going to get your monthly payout. But this way, you have control over the portion you want annuitized. In your 403B, if you just put in like the amount that it requires you to, and you're a highly paid physician, like $275,000 a year is where the max is for the pension contribution. You're going to get put in $40,000 a year. After 30 years, only at 6%, you're going to have over $3 million That's just one of your investment accounts. So you could choose to annuitize all of that if you wanted to. That would likely give you about 7% per year, over $200,000 a year. That would be more than you would get out of the TRS, which should end up being about 180 a year. So if you really wanted to have that much pension, I still think the ORP is the way to go. But the 5-year vesting period and the lower match just basically make it a no-brainer. The ORP, which is called the Optional Retirement Plan 403B, that's, in my opinion, the way to go. And all this really, again, this is all for entertainment purposes. I am not an advisor. I'm not your advisor. I would please recommend anybody to seek their own legal and financial advice before making any decisions. These are just my opinions based on my investigation and all of this stuff. I read about it all the time, talk about it all the time. This is a much more efficient way to actually get my opinions out there. I know a lot of people have been asking me to do something like this, and I really enjoy doing it. So we will wrap up today's episode. Until next time, 39point6.com. If you want to get my blog posts when they're done, subscribe on that webpage, and it will send you an email. And I may start some sort of other Facebook group just for these types of things. We'll see how this all goes. In the future, I plan to interview some peeps, some of you guys who are here in the group. I'm sure it'd be a great time having a call with 1 to 3 of you guys in addition, and take other people's questions. So that's it. And my parting words for you today are, who do you work for? Think about it. Until next time. All right. Pinky says peace out.